What's up, comic and pop culture fans? Today I'm joined here by our special guest, Detective Comics 880, the Jock cover, because we are talking about a very important conversation. Comics that are valuable solely from the art alone. With all the buzz from this fantastic, amazing Spider-Man number 55 cover, I can't find it anywhere. I've gone on eBay and everybody's putting it up for like $100 raw. Combine that and with the same week I got this back from CGC, it really got me thinking, what are the top 10 comics that are sold solely off of just the art alone? Couple ground rules for this list. We are looking at comics that were widely distributed. If it was a comic that just wasn't printed that much, maybe a rare second print, that doesn't count, because that value is solely coming off of how rare it is. I concentrated solely on comics that have nothing going on inside the story. I'm talking nothing of note at all. The issues we're going to be looking at today were printed everywhere. They were in every store, but they are solely on this list because of how nice the artwork is, not if it's a first appearance, a death, or a rare printing. Let's start our countdown at number 10 by George Perez. This is JLA Avengers number 3, the wraparound cover. This comic doesn't have much going on inside it. This comic is being held up solely by the fact that George Perez put together an awesome issue full of all your favorite JLA and Avengers characters. Even though nothing happens in this issue, because of this artist and because of what's on this cover, you can't get this usually for under $100 in a CGC 9.8. Next up, we got a very recent comic. This is Black Bolt number 1. This is done by a cover artist named Christian Ward. Some of you might know him. He has incredibly simplistic but effective covers. Look at this awesome cover of Black Bolt number 1. You could almost like it for the same reason that so many people like Amazing Spider-Man 55. Very minimalistic black background with a cool centered, angry black bolt right in the middle. Value of this comic comes in just ahead of JLA Avengers 3 at $110 for a CGC 9.8. Up next, we got a cover artist that's going to be mentioned at least one more time on this list. We have Adam Hughes giving us the wonderful vintage cover on Wonder Woman Volume 2, 184. This has a classic modern meets vintage look to it, and the corners of the paper even look intentionally burned and dinged. Considered to be one of Adam Hughes' best covers, this one's definitely worth a grab, but if you notice, nothing's going on that CGC label. And that's because nothing happens in this issue. This is carried solely for the art alone. If you want a CGC 9.8 of this, it's going to cost you anywhere from $180 to $200. Up next, we got an awesome cover by artist Warren Lau. This is, of course, Power Girl number 27. The only thing that could, I suppose, be considered as important is this is the last issue from the run, but that's not a key comic at all. This is an absolute nothing issue, but it's probably one of the most iconic pictures when you think of Power Girl. Solely for that fact, this is a coveted cover amongst many comic fans, and one that I have and is on its way to CGC right now. A 9.8 of this loud cover is going to run you $250 if you want to buy a CGC 9.8. Next up, we got the second Adam Hughes one on this list. We got Catwoman 51. Adam Hughes delivered many great Catwoman covers, but this one's probably the most iconic, and one I've had on my wall for 4 years now. Another one of those covers where the composition is dead set in the middle of the comic, showing Catwoman being caught and processed by the GCPD. I love the way it shows like it looked like she's had a night out and she got caught. With the runny makeup, it's just a very striking and memorable image, and one that I always associate with Catwoman. A CGC 9.8 does fluctuate from time to time, but seems to be sitting pretty strong at $260. Up next, we got my friend right here, Detective Comics 880. Once again, do you see anything on this CGC label? No, and that's because nothing happens in this issue at all. But it's an amazing classic cover. And even though it was widely printed, once again, this cover has driven the sales for this deep into the 500s. Probably one of the most iconic Joker covers of all time. This shows the bats exploding out of his face. A great stylistic depiction of the Joker's obsession with Batman. This is a must-have for most comic hunters. While this has spiked to the 700s level a few times, this is one that you can get for right around $550. Up next, we got Todd McFarlane's cover on Batman 423, the only Batman cover he ever did for the run. Before you guys start writing in the comments, yes, he did work on Detective Comics for the Year 2 storyline covers. But for just the Batman run, this is the only one he ever did, and what an iconic cover it is. This is one that I actually just got a 9.2 back from CGC, the super rare newsstand. I did unfortunately once have a CGC 9.8 direct edition. Unfortunately, I did sell it for less than $400, and this book has now spiked all the way up to $900, coming very soon for that $1,000 mark. If you happen to get a newsstand, or maybe a Mark Jewelers variant, you're going to be looking at over $2,000. Next up, we have Ms. Marvel number 2, the Melina variant. This is another great one that really shows Kamala Khan on the cover as Ms. Marvel and is one of the most iconic depictions of her and one of the pictures that you see when you think of Kamala Khan. A great story, but nonetheless, it's not a first appearance and it's not anything extra special. It really is solely the cover that sells this piece. While this variant was a little bit more rare than the regular printing, it was still widely printed and does qualify for this list. A CGC 9.8 of this is going to run you $1,500. Winding down here with number 2, we have Neil Adams' first entry onto our list with Batman 244. Also happens to be my favorite Batman cover of all time. Interestingly though, it's not a first appearance, it's not a death, it's not really anything spectacular, it solely is the art selling it alone. This is Ra's al Ghul standing over a defeated Batman. Perhaps it's the color scheme, perhaps it's us seeing the defeated Batman, perhaps it's the expression on Raz's face and Batman's face that really sell this issue. I love this cover more than words can describe. And one day I vow to get a CGC 9.8, specifically white pages of this comic. And I better act quick, because a CGC 9.8 is currently selling for $2,500. And for number 1, comics that were widely printed yet are still valuable solely for the cover alone and not the story, we have Batman 251 and Superman 233. That's right. This is an exact two-way tie, 1971 and 1973, ironically, both done by Neil Adams yet again. This was in the height of his prime. The Superman 233 is a perfectly well-centered, well-color schemed piece of Superman ripping through some kryptonite. It's declared by everyone to be a classic cover and is going to run you 10 grand if you want to get a CGC 9.8 of this. And I actually think that that valuation might be a bit soft, so definitely worth the submission, guys. But Batman 251 I know is a lot of Batman collectors' personal grails. I did once own a 7.5 of this. I don't know why I got rid of it. That was one of the stupidest mistakes I've ever made. This depicts a stylized giant Joker holding Batman up to a Joker card over Gotham City and has become one of the most iconic, most recognizable covers of all time. Hell, I had a poster of this in college. So did at least one other person in the dorm room. So guys, what'd you think of the top 10? Let me know down in the comments. Are you picking up any comics solely because of the art? Let me know down below. I'd love to hear what you got. I know personally I'm going to be climbing for a few of these. I've already got a couple. I've got some on the way to CGC, so we'll have to see. If you like this video, you might want to check out my top 20 best comic first appearance covers of all time. That video specifically goes over the best first appearance covers of all time and is definitely worth a check out. As always, guys, keep on collecting.